Looks like we have a couple of stragglers and still coming in. It's cool. Does anybody need any hearing assistance for this? Anybody who needs a listening device or something? I can set. I have some devices in the back with headphones, so if you can't hear me, I can go and plug you in. You need one?
No, the real question is, would you please take up your mask to speak in? That makes it so much clearer. Hearing issues.
Once I get into the swing of it.
Pardon?
Once I actually start. Okay. You know that there's like 60 people in quarantine right now. A large number. I don't actually know the number. I know 60 was a figure I heard a few weeks ago. And I know that it's not really going down. Good morning, everybody. All righty, so my name is Stephen Dubois. I am the head of IT here. Currently, my title says system administrator, but I'm kind of in a manager position as well as a system administrator right now. Doesn't really mean anything to you guys. Deciphering semiotics. Signs, symbols, and icons in computing, your phones, your TV, and literally everywhere around the world. What semiotics means is the study of signs and symbols and their meaning. And signs and symbols are what surround us. Instead of having text printed on everything, we've developed a kind of system of pictograms that are culturally relevant to ourselves. And we communicate a lot of things that way these days. So, what is semiotics? We have a Wikipedia definition of semiotics. Now, we could go along and say semiotics is a system of study in sign processes and meaning making. Semiosis is any activity, conduct, or process involved blah, 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 blah. What does that even mean? What's this sign? Go ahead and yell. I want audience participation.
Handicap.
Yes, handicap. Why do we know that?
Wheelchair.
Yeah, we have an icon of a situation where somebody is in a wheelchair. We can sort of, in a simplified way, recapitulate the man in the wheelchair, the person in the wheelchair. These are also icons. But for the sake of this talk, when I say an icon, what I mean is generally a user interface object. Something that you can poke or tap or click on a screen to let you know that there's a thing that it can do, or a message it's meaning to convey. Oh, it looks like we have more stragglers. I'm sorry. Should I start over? Okay, so I'm sure everybody has seen these on the back of somebody's car driving around Green Lake. So it's an icon, a pictogram, describing a person, object, idea, or phenomenon. The person in the wheelchair, signifying that this is an area reserved for somebody who has a disability and needs the extra space or the other accommodations. And you can also tell this is a sign, or tell some meaning from this sign by its color. ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, as well as many international bodies, have sort of decided on a sort of color scheme to convey information. This is pretty universal. It's something that you guys would know. Red and yellow typically mean like danger and caution. Green means, go ahead. Blue means this is regulatory information you need to pay attention to, but isn't necessarily life-threatening. Like even on the roads, like you see blue signs on the roads. Those are signs telling you what the law is, or a regulation that might be a bit out of the ordinary. And green signs are just signs that you're not supposed to notice all that well, because they're green. They're okay. And then you have red signs and yellow signs for caution and danger. What else can an icon represent besides, say, a dude in a wheelchair that you can see? Well, not just people or objects, but also actions and concepts. Can anybody tell me what these symbols mean? Yeah. So we got ourselves rewind, and we got stop, and we got play, and we got pause, and we got fast forward. These all became sort of popular symbols that you saw on tape decks and CD players. And the reason that the play icon is shaped this way is because playback imitates reading, and we read from left to right. And so the triangle points to the right. So when you're playing something back that way, you're moving along the track from left to right. It can also, okay, so I moved through that a little bit quickly. This is another concept in semiotics called skeuomorphism. So skeuomorphism is the idea that our ways of doing things evolve over time. So who here has heard of horsepower? Okay, so the Model T was not powered by horses, but it had more than 1 horsepower. And that's kind of what skeuomorphism gets at. The horses are no longer there, but we're still using them. We're still including them in the thought. And so we have, for instance, buckles on Velcro shoes. Like you can have Velcro shoes with a belt buckle on it. The buckle is no longer part of the actual, the whole package, but the buckle helps you recognize the kind of shoe it is. So in Windows and Mac, in most systems really, if you have to explicitly save something, there will generally be a button for it to save your file. And that button will look like, almost always, a floppy disk, a 3.5-inch floppy disk, which hasn't been a thing we've used for over 20 years now. Really. Why is this? Well, it's because Microsoft basically back in the day decided it would be a floppy disk. And then we've never changed it. It became part of our language. And I think that's a pretty cool feature. So this is sort of what I'm getting at when I say skeuomorphism. We have symbols in our computing language that are kind of ancestral to what we use now, but maybe we don't see them anymore. And you might be able to latch on to that as well. So on a lot of phones and computers, the address book, like your contacts, how you get at your contacts, will look like an address book, even though in a lot of modern places and systems, address books aren't used anymore. Although I've seen you guys do use address books, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And also, speaking of address books, we have the phone book. So we have pictographic likeness. So you want to make a call on your phone, there will almost always be an icon that looks like this. It means your phone, because it looks like a phone. And then the address book, also on your phones, maybe look like a Rolodex, but also, unfortunately, they've changed it a bit. Just because newer generations, younger generations of folks, they don't use address books, and they're the big users of phones. So we've come up with a new idea, a new pictographic concept for your address book. We're just going to say, when you want to talk to a person, you know that person is person-shaped, so you should look for the icon that's shaped like a person. Semiotics is all about associating icons and symbols with meaning. So a key part of this paradigm is culture. And a sign, and a thing in semiotics is that a sign is only meaningful to those who can understand it, because every sign we make is made in the context of a culture. So, shoot, I didn't add a slide for this. Yes. So, here's something really useful. It's actually useful. It's useful. I encounter this pretty often with you guys when I'm trying to help you out. And maybe people knew what this is. So this is a functional and a contextual icon. This is the icon for Wi-Fi. It is shaped kind of like a W. So you can tell one that way that it's the Wi-Fi icon. And then also has waves, because Wi-Fi is a radio wave technology. So you have the concentric waves. But the Wi-Fi icon, which you see, shows up on your desktop It shows up on your phone. It shows up even on like your Roku device, although it's buried in the settings a little bit. It shows up on your Apple TV, shows up on your Kindle Fire, or yeah, your Amazon Fire TV stick. It shows up on practically any device that connects to Wi-Fi, so practically any device. It indicates the status of your Wi-Fi. So like if you have Windows and you have a Wi-Fi network icon in your taskbar, it'll have the wave symbols. And this one shows that it has an excellent connection because all of those bars are full and none of them are hollow. If the outermost bar, like this bar here, was hollow, just an outline of a bar, then you would know that there was a worse signal. And additionally, this lock icon shows that the network you're connecting to is secure. So you have this icon, it's a Wi-Fi icon, but it tells you many different sort of pieces of information just in itself. It says that it's Wi-Fi, it says that it's a good signal strength network, and it's saying that it's also secure. This icon is a bit different. This one shows that the signal strength, like I said, the outermost bar is hollow, so it's not as good of a signal, it's moderate strength. And you see that shield with an exclamation point on it means danger. In most operating systems, when you see that kind of symbol with a shield and an exclamation point on it, that means you gotta watch out. This is something that's important to your security. And generally, certainly in Wi-Fi systems, the shield with an exclamation point will mean that it's not secure. You can also see other icons that mean unsecure as well, if you try and think about the concept of unsecure, like an open lock, or even like just sort of the cross out no signal next to the Wi-Fi. Icons also evolve. This is the start menu from Windows 95. It went like that until 2001, and then Microsoft went along and changed it into Windows XP's start menu. It still says start though, so you know that you gotta start there. But then in 2007, Windows Vista came out. And it doesn't say start anymore, but the thing is, that went from 1995 to 2007, so that was like 10 years of knowing where to go to start. And I guess Microsoft figured, well, everybody knows where the start menu is, they should go down there and click it, and we can make it look a little bit more ornamental and cool. And then from 2012 to 2021, they reduced its complexity and they made it more of an icon and less of a picture of what you want. And then now they have it very flat. It's kind of difficult to figure out what this means. Now, this is the fun part. This is why I wanted to do this presentation, nuclear semiotics. Don't be scared. This is less about bombs blowing up and more about waste. So, you have a bunch of low-level nuclear waste from just running power plants and stuff. How do you store it, and how do you tell people 10,000 years from now it's still poisonous for another 120,000 years? And how do you tell them this in a way they both understand it and trust you and also will like not disturb the area, not screw with the goodies? So Sandia National Labs came up with like, okay, so this is the problem that we have to do. We need to send a message. And so the message that Sandia National Laboratories came up with was a set of like basic ideas we need to communicate at a waste facility. And the idea is like, this places a message and a part of systems of messages. Pay attention to it. Sending this message was important to us. We considered ourselves a powerful civilization. The place is not a place of honor. There are no treats or goodies here. This is waste. This waste is dangerous and repulsive to us, and it's a warning about danger. This place is unsafe. The danger is a part of a location, particular location where all that stuff is. Stay away from it. The danger is still present. It's going to stay this bad for a long, long, long time. So just because our civilization no longer exists doesn't mean it isn't relevant to you guys in the future. The danger is to the body because it's radioactive and contaminated. Form of the danger, emanation of energy. Danger is unleashed if you substantially disturb the place. If you just leave it alone, everything will be fine. If you go screwing around and digging up, then it won't be okay. So how do we communicate that to generations in the future? Well, you could show a big scary sign. It's like, "Urgh!" And then people are like, well, that's just like a curse tablet outside of a pyramid, you know? Everybody says, oh, don't touch this stuff, it's dangerous, but everybody also knows that the king buried there has all kinds of gold all over him. So, to immediately combat this, we thought, well, what if we made it a scary monument? Instead of just being like signs saying, don't come here, we say, okay, this place is really creepy. We shouldn't be here because it's ominous. So we had ideas, well, what if we like covered a gigantic concrete plug over the buried area, and then we built all of these spike trees? Do you want to build a house there? I wouldn't. Or you could do other things, like you could make, okay, so our genetic engineering power, do you remember the guy who came in a few months ago who was talking about making sort of like artificial organelle hearts and various other things? Well, pursuant to that technology, you can genetically engineer cats to glow in the dark in the presence of radiation. Yeah. And so there have been proposals that we could do that, and we could just like breed cats that are going to glow in the dark whenever they're near one of these areas, and that could make the area haunted. And people are superstitious, and they're going to be like, well, this is a weird place, and the cats only glow here. You also have proposal like the atomic priesthood. You can develop a cult where there are people who will guard the land and basically be like, this is our holy land. You can't come in here. We're not touching it. And the idea here is religions really often will outlive civilizations. And so maybe you could make something longer lasting. You can make a long lasting tradition of not disturbing the waste facility. Or you could even combine it with the nuclear kitties and be like holy icons of the cats. And actually, this photo here is a cat that will glow in the dark in the presence of various chemicals. That's his face glowing in the dark in the presence of a specific chemical. That's a real cat. That's not a piece of art. We can genetically engineer the cats to do this. It's not a problem. I think that's really cool. I get fixated on that. In the end, for nuclear semiotics, scientists and linguists kind of agreed that what you need to do is you need to just develop a tradition. You need to basically make a visitor center on top of whatever nuclear waste site, be entirely honest about it, and just be like, okay, so as language evolves, we just need to make sure this place keeps going. And people need to keep putting more signs up in their languages and stuff, and it will just be like an interpretive center. Maybe that's a good idea, maybe it's not, but that's kind of the best idea I've seen floated now. And it's certainly the only kind of idea that the government would be willing to pay for. So the semiotic key takeaways: icons mean things. We can understand their meaning often via visual likeness, and we can use the culture that created this symbol in order to help us guess their meanings. Yeah. So here's our symbol, the hearthstone. Okay, so I made it a short one. I'm wondering, does anybody have questions? Alrighty.
I want the emojis to be labeled.
Okay. I hear you said you wanted emojis to be labeled.
All those little smiley faces with hands out or fingers up or whatever.
I have good news for you. If you're on a computer, like a desktop or laptop, and you take your mouse and hover it over the emoji face, a tooltip pops up that says what the face is.
Promise?
On a Windows or a Mac machine, it will do that. On a phone, generally what it does is you gotta press and hold down on the emoji face if it's in a text field, and that may give you a tooltip.
Any other questions?
Yeah, anybody else got questions? Anybody else got stuff? Okay. Yeah, hold on. 1 second, we're getting a mic to you. Behind you.
We know that young people are very creative,
Yes.
and also that they need to be educated about these signs. A lot of these young people don't know what an address book is.
Oh, yeah.
So that seems like a challenge, and also the challenge of them making their own icons for things.
Yes.
And is there an agency you mentioned that sort of approves or generalizes these icons?
There are groups that study them, like various literature-based or cultural-based or sociology-based groups that study these icons. But really, it's kind of a wild phenomenon. It's just a thing that our culture does. Our culture constantly is coming up with signs and generating new ways to sort of pass meaning between each other without needing to make big, long paragraphs about it. So what you see with emoji is it's much less to do with what emojis are labeled as and more about what they look like. And so they're supposed to imitate a facial reaction. So, and honestly, okay, so there's multiple generations to emoji, to emoticons. There's multiple generations, and I'm actually in one of the very old ones, meaning that I use old style things that you can type out on a keyboard, like colon, dash, open parentheses to make a smiley face. I don't tend to use the actual emoji grid with the actual pictograms. I like to make them myself. Huh? Oh, sometimes with a nose, sometimes without. But yeah, it has to do a lot more with just what the emoji looks like. So, what's a good example? What's a good example? Let me think for a second. So, yeah, so you see like crying face, somebody like crying laughing face is a really common one. And it just looks like a face crying. And so you tell somebody something that should be funny and they send you the crying face, that generally will mean crying laughing and not just straight up crying. And it's very contextual. It's very, honestly, a lot of the time it's beyond me. Like kids will send, I have a 20-year-old nephew who I just moved in, and he'll send me a string of emojis that are like 5 long and I won't be able to understand it. And that's less of semiotics and more of an entirely new language, really. And it's fast. So a big part of it is just sort of, you're looking for a vibe from the thing. You're not looking for a specific message. A lot of the time, you're just sort of looking for an emotional vibe. That's why we kind of invented emojis. Yeah?
There's also a list of letters that are short for...
Oh, abbreviations and acronyms, yes. The abbreviation lists, like BRB, be right back, and LOL for lol, and RFL, yeah, ROFLL. You can just search it. You can look for acronyms, or you can, okay, you know what I do? There's this great thing called Urban Dictionary. If you go onto the internet, if you go open up Google or your web browser on your phone or on your computer, if you do a web search and you look up Urban Dictionary will then let you look up all kinds of other abbreviations that you may not understand very well. It's all volunteer maintained. So you have to take the definitions with a grain of salt. But it's a pretty good resource. There's also knowyourmeme.com. Knowyourmeme.com. And that one will let you understand various memes and various sort of lines and sayings and phrases that people are using, sometimes in real life, but mostly online. And Know Your Meme is a very valuable resource for that as well. So if you get sent like an image caption and it says something, and it's some funny picture, and the text might say, MFW, I'm looking for some pizza, or something like that. And you can look up, what does MFW, what does that mean? It means my face when. And that's kind of an internet abbreviation. And so if you're confused about like memes, then knowyourmeme.com works really well for that. What else? Any other questions?
What does MFW stand for?
My face when?
My face,
My face when?
my face one.
When? W-H-E-N. My face when, colon, and then they would have a meme. So it's kind of like how you would react to a situation. That type of deal. That's what that type of meme format would be. Now, it's kind of difficult to, yeah. Hi. I'm not sure why, I thought I had to ask Victoria to come here, but I think we might have agreed to have her man the help desk instead. Moving mics around, sorry, go ahead.
Well, two things. One, one of your slides had the American National Standards Institute, or ANSI.
Yes,
So this area used to be regulated, right?
signs and symbols.
Signs,
In official capacities, it's regulated, but I mean, how are you going to regulate what people say to each other on the internet?
I guess that's what happened.
How are you going to regulate what people say to each other just face to face in everyday life?
Yeah, no, I was thinking that the icons that are in widespread use
Oh, yeah,
ought to
yeah.
be subject to some kind of standard.
They try to do that. I mean, certainly, like, if it's the government using icons and symbols, then they use ANSI. The ANSI is like a national standard for like colors, and they do have various glyphs and stuff. Yeah, like the handicap sign is an ANSI standard. But the thing is, there's other handicap signs too. Like there's the one where it looks like the dude who's pushing off hard on his wheelchair with like some dynamic forward motion, and that's not an ANSI standard symbol or icon or glyph, but people put that up anyway because they feel like it looks less disabled than somebody sitting squarely in a wheelchair.
Okay, the other thing, I'm curious what you and everybody else in the room think that Hearthstone icon or symbol is trying to tell us.
I think it's just kind of okay, we can do some analysis.
Yeah, because to me it isn't really saying anything.
Yeah, so we have the H for Hearthstone. We use brown, I can assume, honestly, I'm not sure who came up with this graphic design. I have the feeling it might
It
be...
wasn't you, huh?
No, it wasn't me. I have the feeling it might be marketing, Jill Boltman or somebody who helped come up with it. And if I'm coming from a marketing color theory standpoint, I'd say brown is relatively soothing color, and that the H for Hearthstone is useful, and that this sort of wood grain implies sort of age and solidity, if it's a wood grain. If it's a stone grain, then yeah, solidity, but perhaps not exactly the same sort of age or august nature.
Or when it's on Green Lake.
Yes, that probably is, you know what? Your idea is probably right. Yeah, also, yeah, because we also say in a lot of official material, we call ourselves the Hearthstone at Green Lake. Yeah.
Brown is the park.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Park signs are in brown.
Yeah, that's a good point as well, thank you.
Short days in the winter.
Short days of the winter, you said? Yeah, are there any other questions? Yeah.
Do Microsoft and Apple talk to each other about these signs?
In a way they do.
Repeat the question.
Do Microsoft and Apple communicate about their icons?
They do. In a way they do. They fight over them. So, you know how you can have different fonts of like the English alphabet, and it makes the letters look somewhat different, but they're all recognizable as their letters. Emoji have fonts as well. And so Samsung, the phone maker, has its own like font face for emoji, and Google has its own font face for emoji to use on Android phones, and Apple has its own font face for emoji, and Microsoft has its own font face for emoji, and various other companies. Every company that like is big enough to be its own platform, its own device platform or its own web platform, generally will either have its own sort of emoji font, or if it's big enough to feel like it can compete with the big boys, or it uses one of the big boys' emoji fonts. And so Microsoft and Apple and Samsung fight like cats and dogs with each other about who wants to get the more popular emoji font. And they even go to the point where I believe Apple originally was the one who added in certain features to their emoji fonts to try and gain more popularity. For instance, I believe I believe it was Apple who added skin tones to their emoji fonts. So I think it was like 2017 or so, 2016, 2017, Apple added skin tones to their emoji fonts. Up until then, it was always monochrome, and usually yellow was the color that you pick for skin tone, or was the standard skin tone for emoji. And now it is still default yellow, but now you can pick from, light through a spectrum down to dark. And so if you want your emojis to match your skin tone or convey information via skin tone, you can do that with any emoji now. But Apple was the first mover on that, and then everybody followed them. Yeah?
Several things. One is, in terms of emojis, when you go down and hit the smiley face or whatever,
You will get a menu, a blank menu where you can say, I want hearts, or I want hands clapping, or put in some words, and they will selectively.
Oh, you mean the search for emoji? Yeah, how you can like bring up an emoji menu on most keyboards on a phone or a tablet,
Yes.
and then it will give you the option to search for an emoji.
In terms of the Hearthstone, when I'm referring to it, I'll put a lowercase s with it.
Huh, oh, that's cool. Why?
And could you address, there are tips where somebody will offer you something. You want to find out this? Click this link. But some of them are legitimate. There's one that says food to go, or today.
Okay, so you want me to give you a talk on phishing as well. I already did a talk on personal cybersecurity it was like 6 months ago, and it's available on YouTube. It's available on the Hearthstone's YouTube. I can also run that on Channel 370 if you'd like.
That would be good. Yeah, some of them can be either scams or just advertising to say, do you want to buy this link?
Yeah. Oh, like the domain name, you mean? Yeah, you can buy domain names. They always want to sell you a domain name. That's a common business model online. Hey? Mike's coming to you.
Something that is confusing is you get something like LOL.
Yeah.
Just off the top of my head, I can think of two ways to interpret it. One is laugh out loud, and the other is lots of luck.
Okay,
There's
so
probably
if you're
more
talking
to it.
with somebody younger than 45 years old, it will always be laughing out loud.
Okay.
Yeah, anybody under about 45 is going to always think laugh out loud. They're not going to think lots of luck. In fact, I've seen that written down before, the lots of luck thing, but I've never seen it used in... I've seen little green men. Little old lady, I've never seen it abbreviated that way, but I have seen LGMs for little green men. Any other questions? Anybody else want to add to the discussion? Okay, I think that's 10:34. It's a little short, but if everybody's satisfied, we can strike the set and I can get back to work. Alrighty, thank you so much for coming, everybody. Channel 370. No, we don't have a TV schedule for Channel 370. That's something that I should work on. Actually, it's something resident engagement needs to do, because they have the manpower to do it. I just need to show them how to do it. Okay, cool. Hey, let me turn that off, yeah.
Thank you.